Okay, that's just gone 8 o'clock here in the UK, so I'll just get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you, wherever you are joining us from. My name is Kevin Ward, and I'm the support manager and a sales geoscientist based here in our Petrosys Glasgow office. And it's my job today to take you through the Map Templates webinar on how to upgrade from map sheets. Now, some of you will probably have seen the images that I've got on the screen here. The first thing I'll say before we get started, I've deliberately shown that a map sheet looks the same as a map style template. So hopefully this webinar should be quite easy and straightforward, because essentially map sheets and map style templates are the same thing. It's just how we use them that's significantly improved in the new version. Now, just a little bit of housekeeping, just to let you know, this webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be on our website in due course. And I think everybody's on mute at the moment, but at the end there'll be time for questions. And if you have questions as we go, you can type them into the chat log. Okay, let me move on to the next slide. So there'll be a few slides, and then I'll show a quick live demo of how somebody can actually upgrade to the new version and upgrade to map templates. So what we're doing over the next few weeks at Petrosys webinars is to do a linked series all on map templates. These are obviously a brand new concept and quite a big change in terms of how you use Petrosys. So we thought it was appropriate to do a full series on these. Now, the webinar we're doing today is how to upgrade from map sheets, and that's the first in the series. We'll also be doing one on creating style templates, so how you actually edit the styles and how you can share these styles with others. There'll then be one on creating edits. I don't know if creating edits is really the right term for that. It's basically how you define your AOI, or your area of interest of your map. Very simple concept with the new functionality. There will then be a webinar on printing and plotting, and that will just be showing you how to change things like scale and how to change page sizes for printing or for plotting to a digital version of your map. And finally, we'll look at management of map templates. So one of the huge advantages of map templates over map sheets is that not everybody needs to know how to create these. Everybody can use them, but not everybody needs to know how to create them. So at your organization, you can assign certain users to be the people that create these corporate standard styles, and then set other users to be able just to use them rather than edit them. And so there's various different options in there, and so that's what the final webinar will cover. So before I get started on how we upgrade from map sheets to templates, because this is the first webinar in the series, I thought I would just do a quick slide on the difference between map sheets and map templates. Now, I think most people that I see on that have logged into the webinar, I think you probably will have seen this before, but it's definitely worth just covering, just in case some people have not seen this yet. So we'll start with the old functionality, which we called map sheets. The old map sheets had some limitations. So when using map sheets, all users had to know how to create and edit map sheets. Now, this is the sort of box you would have got in the old version, where you would have had to know how to use the layout details or lines, ticks, and annotations, or how to set up various things. And the reason that everybody had to know how to edit these is that when you were working in a different area, you needed a different map sheet, because map sheets had a style component, but they were also tied to the area of interest as well. So if you wanted to use the same style in a different area, you had to create a whole new map sheet, and you had to know how to use these buttons. Secondly, when using map sheets, you had to, when you changed the scale, you had to know how to make these edits as well. So a classic example, if I had a map sheet that looked something like this, so this sort of style, if I change the scale, I might end up with something like this. And that's because the coordinate labels and the images and objects around the map changed absolutely in size. So if this, if I go back a little bit, if this title block here was 10 centimeters across in a physical print, when I changed the scale of my map, it was still 10 centimeters across. Now, if my map happened to be 1 meter in width, then 10 centimetres across would maybe take up 10% of that map. However, if I change scale and my map was then 20 centimetres across, suddenly my 10 centimetre title block took up a huge amount of room on the map. And so the user then had to make lots of edits to get this looking back to the original style. So that was another limitation of map sheets. So because of this, because everybody was editing these map sheets, there was no way to set a company-wide standard style. And so what we did was, in our map template solution, is we split the style from the extent and from the scale. And that's really what map templates are. You have an individual style, an individual extent, and an individual scale component. Now, often when I'm explaining this for the first time to people, I think it sounds as if we've almost made it more complicated by splitting style from extent from scale. What I would do to reassure you is to say that because of the way we've implemented this, we've actually made it incredibly easy. A user no longer needs to create styles because the style is independent of the extent and the scale. So the style is something that's set up initially by one or two people at your organisation, and it's then shareable. And I'll show you a little bit of that today. Same with scale as well. Because the styling is independent of the scale, you can generate a map at 1 to 10,000, and you can easily then change it to a 1 to 20,000 map, and the objects around the map, the labels, the title block, for example, will all change relative to that scale. So because you have the option to do that now, all the user needs to do is define their extent. And we've even added in some new options to define your extent that make it incredibly easy. So as a user, once this is set up, which we'll cover today, and I'll show you how easy it is to set up, then all the user has to do, display their data, define their extent, save their map, and then move on to the more important things in with their map creation to show all of the detail that they want. So you really don't need to worry too much about the actual the objects around the map anymore. So that's the difference between map sheets and map templates. What I'm going to do today is show you how to upgrade from map sheets, and hopefully I can convince you that it's actually incredibly easy to upgrade from map sheets to map templates. The first point I'll make is that if you simply want to use map sheets, you don't actually need to do anything. You simply select the map sheet, and that's what this image is showing on the right hand side here. So in the new version, down the bottom of the map, there's an option to select the style and to select the extent, so remember those two are independent of each other. And when you click on either, there's a toggle box where you can toggle on to show legacy map sheets, and Petrosys will look in your project directory for any map sheets. If it finds them, you can then select them. And it's as simple as that. Once you've selected it, it will look the exact same if it's the style, and if you click on the extent and select the map sheet, it will be the exact same extent that that map sheet was. So if you simply want to use your previous map sheet, you don't have to do anything in the new version. It just simply works. We've built in that backwards compatibility. However, there is an option to take this a little bit further. If you want to share the style of an existing map sheet or share the extent of a previous map sheet, then you can take this a little bit further and save them as a template. And this is really the huge advantage of the map templates, is that you can share these objects. So in previous versions of Petrosys, when you had map sheets, you probably had hundreds or even thousands of map sheets lying about in various different projects. In the new version, you only need to have a handful of styles that adhere to your corporate standards. Same with extents. If you have certain extents that you want to share with other people, you don't necessarily need to have these as templates, but if you want to share extents as a template, you can do that as well. And that's it, and that's really what I'm going to show you in this very short demo. So what I'll do is I'll jump out of PowerPoint, and what I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to open up the old version of Petrosys. So I'll double click on version 17.8.8. And this opens here. So this is the panel that you're probably all familiar with, and I'll click on mapping. And what you can see is we have a map sheet here. So it's got a style component, it's got an extent component, so it's covering a certain area of the North Sea here, and if I just zoom into here, it's also got a scale, so it's 1 to 20,000, this particular map sheet. And that's in the old version. So I'll simply close that down now, and I'll open up the new version and show you what a user would do if I theoretically just upgraded now to the new version, so 2017.1.2 in this case, what I would have to do to upgrade. So I'll click on mapping, And what you'll see is that I've had to do absolutely nothing to upgrade. It's automatically split. If you look down the bottom right here, it's automatically split my GoFax 2007 3D map sheet into its style component and its extent component. And Petrosys has also remembered that that was the last map sheet I was using, so that's the one I want to see when I open the software. Now if I go into the style selector here and I toggle on this legacy map sheets option, and I'll just sort by location, you can see that I have access to all of those map sheets that are in the project here, and I can select any one of these and it will change the style to that map sheet. Importantly, it's not changed the extent. I'm still using the extent of the GoFax 2007 3D map sheet because that is independent. And I'll jump back to the same style that I was using before. So the value here in upgrading is that if you just want to use the style or just use the extent, you don't have to do anything at all. What you can now do is just simply come in, display your grid, and that would be it. That would be you ready just to start displaying other data and then save your map. Very easy. Okay, what I'm going to talk about now is how we can actually share the style and the extent component with others, because that's the real advantage of the map templates. Now, before sharing, just as a little aside, remember that map template style have actually more functionality than map sheets, and we'll cover this more in the map style webinar, which is the next one in the series. But it's worth having a look around to see if anything can be improved about your style before simply sharing it as is. And there's a couple of things about this particular map sheet when I'm saving it as a map style template that I could improve. So again, this will be covered more in the map style template webinar. But what I'll do is I'll just double click where it says map template, and I'm just going to click on the map elements tab here. And what you'll see is that there's some images. I'll move this over here actually. You'll see that there are some images associated with this this map sheet or this map style template now. One of those is a north arrow image. So one of the limitations of map sheets was that you were not able to have a north arrow as part of the actual map sheet, but you can have a north arrow as part of a map template. So rather than using this workaround, which was to have a north arrow image, I'm going to simply remove that so it's gone from here, and I'm going to add in a north arrow now by toggling on the north arrow option. And I can easily go in here and choose a different style of north arrow. Maybe this is the one my company wants to use. Another advantage of map templates is that I no longer need to have all these objects in the sidebar here. I can actually have some within the map area as well if I want. So I'll push this north arrow now into the top right of my map area, and that should appear up here. Another thing that's always a huge advantage of the map style templates is that the style component is not linked to the extent. So in this previous map sheet, I had some images here of the location. In this case, it's in the North Sea. But because this style can be used by anyone at my company in any location, I'm not going to need locations of the actual style because it doesn't have a location. So I'm going to remove those two images. And in its place, I'm going to toggle on a new thing that we have as part of the new functionality, and that is dynamic location maps. So by toggling on this dynamic location map, and I'll put this on the sidebar from top to bottom, I can make some little adjustments if I want. I won't spend too long doing these because it's not really the point of this this webinar. But I could zoom in, for example, to make this a bit clearer. I could, let's say, I could change the background colours of the countries. It's up to yourself what you want to do. But this is a dynamic location map. So when I display that location map, if somebody at my organisation reuses this style, it will adjust to their area of interest. So the value here is that it's easier to use rather than creating images for certain objects like north arrows. And another thing is you can also place the objects within the map rather than just on the sidebar. And as I've shown here, another advantage is we have dynamic location maps, so no longer just using images of locations. So what I would do once I've made these changes, or if I don't want to make the changes, I don't have to, I could use the map sheet style exactly as it is. What I need to do is I need to save it as a template for other people to use. So if I click on map template style, there's a save as template option. And it's deliberately buried down a couple of options there. It's deliberately kind of hidden because it's not something that people will do every day. Saving these styles as a template is something you should do at the start when you upgrade, but it's not something everybody needs to do. Once it's done, once you've created a few corporate standard styles, you no longer need to create any more. So I might just call this my company approved standard style. And I might just description, say this is the style for all peer map reviews. And I'm saving this to the site. Now there's different areas you can save these styles to. You can save them to your project level, so they're just available within your project. You can save them to a user location, and this is my particular user location. You can save them to a custom location if you define that in the configuration, or you can save them to the site level. Now my local just sits on the C drive because I'm using a laptop here. If I was using my own desktop machine, I would be using a shared local, where this local folder would be on a network somewhere. And because that local folder would be on a network, everybody would have access to this style that I'm just about to save. And so what you would find is that then users, when they open up mapping, would click on the style button, and they would come in here, and there would now be a site level location, and the style would be available from here. Now by doing this, what it means is that eventually you can toggle off this legacy map sheets option, or toggle it off within the configuration so nobody sees it anymore. And going forward, it would mean that you would just have a handful of company approved standard styles that people could use. So the recommendation when upgrading then is to look through the old map sheets and come up with a set of company approved standard styles. So look at the styles that you think your company needs, have these approved, and save these to the site level so everybody can use it. So focus on the ones that are particularly important for your company, and then save them here so that nobody really needs to use the old map sheets. And as I said earlier, you can do this for extents as well. Saving extent templates is probably something that will be done a little bit less often than saving style templates, but if there are particular extents, perhaps around a field or a license block, that's particularly important to your company that several maps will be created over, then you can also save those extents as templates. Now, just to point out, we've done this for some clients already on a consultancy basis. So if you are looking to improve mapping standards at your organisation, then please talk to us and we can discuss how we can come on site and set these up for you so that you don't need to really worry about how it's actually done. You can then just focus on using the styles or using the extents. And that's everything that I wanted to talk about today. So thanks very much for listening for this 15-20 minute webinar. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat log. I'll also unmute everybody just now so you can ask questions live if you want as well. And the final thing I'll point out is that if you want to find more information on this, we'll be putting a how-to document as part of our online portal, how-to documents, and we're putting that up on the portal soon. So if you haven't used the portal yet, go to our website. There's various different options for how to get into the portal. Once you have got in there, sign in or create a login, and then if you click on the Learn tab, you'll see all of these useful how-to documents. So thanks again. Okay, I've got a question here about how or where Petrosys Pro looks for the old map sheet files. That's a good question. Let me just zoom back out of this and I'll just explain that in a little bit more detail. So when you click on this and you toggle on the legacy map sheets, you will see that it looks for the sheet.def file. We did have a client that was testing this recently, and we've had to make a little change here where currently it looks for the map sheet file in the project directory. However, some people's projects were set up such that the map sheet files were actually buried down a few subfolders. And so what we've done is we've changed this a little bit for the next release version. And we've also, in addition to adding an option where it scans all of the subdirectories, we've also added an option where you can point manually to different folders. If you have a particular folder where everybody uses map sheets from, you can point to that folder. So I believe this will be released for the 2018.1 release, which is due out, I think, at the end of March. So that is coming up. So if you've got your map sheets buried down a few subfolders, then that'll all be fixed in the next version for you. Okay, any more questions? Okay then, if there's no more questions, then I'll end this webinar. Thanks again, and as I said, this webinar will be on the website soon, and if you have any questions, please get in touch with us at support@petrosys.com.au. Thanks.